The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from the 1970s is widely regarded as one of the first and best slasher films that we have in horror up to date. Now, I just watched it for the first time, and I'm going to do part of the YouTube videos I'm going to do is reviewing older movies that I watch, because I'm working through a list that a buddy made me of movies that I have not seen that have come out in previous years that I should, like my 100 need to watch list. The first one I chose from that was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so let's talk about that movie. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, directed by Tobe Hooper, is a story about 5 friends who are on a getaway in Texas, and they stumble upon the house of Leatherface, who is the famed killer in the franchise, and things go awry. Now, the first thing that I'll say about this movie is negative, and I want to get the negative stuff out of the way so I can talk about all the positives, because there are a lot more positives to this movie than I expected, because there are mixed opinions on this movie amongst movie fans, horror fans. Some people didn't like it on their first watch, but have come to appreciate it. So I came in with a kind of a mixed bag of expectations, because I really did not have any clue just exactly what to be expecting from this film. But, so just to get the negative stuff out of the way, the biggest thing that I have a problem with in this movie is the dialogue, and that is partially because this is a movie from the 70s. The script writing in general has come a long way since then. Acting has come a long way since then. The acting performances in this movie aren't great, but I really think, I'm not sure if this is writing or acting, but I think a lot of it ends up being like, there's not a ton of dialogue, and there's more just like screaming and chaos that comes through that really just kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit when there's not as much dialogue going on. It's really just like, again, the final, like the dinner scene and like the final scene where our final girl is being held captive. We don't know if she's going to make it. She's just screaming the entire time, and it's a good job of portraying the fear, but there also is a lack of dialogue there that maybe is intentional to be unsettling, but it also is a little weird that there isn't dialogue in that moment, and it kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit. Like I said, it takes you out of the moment just hearing just constant screams and chaos. If that's all you're seeing, there's no change or range of emotion going on. It's just screams and chaos, right? So that's one of my big problems. The other big problem that I have with it is something that's probably not its own fault, because horror has come a long way, and when Curry Barker remakes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I hope that this will be different, and I know from watching Obsession that this will be different. You just don't see a lot of the kills, right? And it's a great slasher film. It's meant to be a great slasher film. You just don't see a lot of the kills. That kind of takes you out of it, right? There were movies, earlier horror films from like the 1970s up until the 2000s, like, just weren't really into gore. They didn't want to scare people off with the gore, as my assumption, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre falls into that category. You see some blood, but everything is shot from behind the victims for the most part. You just really see the chainsaw moving. It doesn't look very realistic. It's hard to make the kills look real when you're intentionally not showing something, right? And so it becomes even less believable what you're watching, because they're filming it from an angle where you're like, well, this obviously looks fake, and it is fake, right? You know that every kill in the Terrifier movies is fake, but it really doesn't look like it when you're watching the films. You can honestly believe that what's happening with Art the Clown is happening, right? With some of the new Halloween movies, you can obviously see what Michael Myers is doing. You can think, and like, that could be a real thing that happens. But with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's filmed from behind the victims a lot, like I said, and they don't show a ton. A lot of it happens off screen, so you're left to wonder, well, what actually happened? Are the kills actually, like, real? Right? Can I believe these are real? Again, this is all because of the time that it came out, right? That's just what horror movies were, but that was another one of my problems with it. As far as the positives go, I think this movie is paced very well. It's only 83 minutes long. Obviously, horror movies and movies in general have gotten longer as years have gone on, so a movie like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if it was made today, would probably be about hour 45 to 2 hours. But 83 minutes, so an hour and 23 minutes, and it is just fast-paced. It keeps you going for the whole ride. You're tense the whole time. It doesn't really let you breathe at all, and that's what I really like about it. There is some cool cinematography in this. I did like the way that they set up Leatherface, the way that he appears for the first time, I think is really cool. Just kind of being this unknown entity, right? They don't really know what's going on with him. The fact that Leatherface doesn't talk or anything, I think, is a good choice, and honestly, I think it's a really good part of the movie, is the fact that he doesn't say anything. He's just somebody who's killing for what you can look at as literally no reason. He's a very random killer. You don't look at him and say there's an exact motive for what he's doing. They get into a little bit when they get to the dinner scene, when they reveal that the person from the hitchhiker from the beginning is actually part of this whole thing. They get to a little bit of why they're doing it, but they don't really explain like why they're doing this, really. Like, Leatherface just kind of seems to be this just psycho random killer who really doesn't care who you are. If you are in his vicinity, he's probably going to kill you, right? And that's pretty much what happens with the first kill in the movie, is that he walks into this house and without any warning, he's smashed in the head with a hammer, and that's it. One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is the dinner scene. I think this is one of the better scenes, especially in an older horror movie, but maybe in horror in general. Just the claustrophobia, the screaming is a little bit much for me still, as far as how much it is happening, but that just, it all builds to this really good boiling point. The grandpa is terrifying. The scene where they're trying to make him hit her is horrifying. The fact that you can just see that this family that's trying to kill this girl is just insane. And the claustrophobia, again, the camera, you're in a small confined space. It feels like a fever dream what you're watching. And I do think that was a really good part of it. The fact that they're arguing about who's supposed to kill her, about who does more work, like there's infighting and everything, and the fact that they never really get into a reason of why they're doing this. Like, it just feels random. And then obviously the fact that she gets to escape, and I love the last shot of this movie is Leatherface just swinging aimlessly the chainsaw as she rides away in the pickup truck that she's been saved in, just swinging it back and forth like this. The shot from behind him is really cool. The shot that ends up turning to face him is really cool. The fact that like Leatherface is treated throughout this whole movie like kind of an inferior to his people, or something a little bit lesser than the people around him. Like when they kidnap her after everybody else is dead, and he tries to come in the room that she's in, and he's kicked out immediately and yelled at. Like, clearly, like, there's a lot more stuff going on with this family, with Leatherface, and it really leaves the door open for that. But the fact that he doesn't talk much or at all, I'm not sure I remember. And it's really just him slamming doors and hitting people and screaming himself. Like, he's fully, like, crazy, it seems like. I think it's all really, really good, and like I said, that ending shot I think is awesome. I really, really love that shot of him just swinging the chainsaw aimlessly. Overall, for a film made on a $140,000 budget, for a cast that filmed in blazing Texas heat with no AC, like, this is a fine movie. Like, I gave it, I think, a 3.5 maybe on Letterboxd. Like, it really, there's not a lot to discredit it for that can't be chalked up to the fact that it was made in the 70s. I have not watched the remake in 2003. I have heard horrible things. I do know that there was one that just came out a couple years ago, I think, that I probably will watch. I think I'll watch most of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre content before Corey Barker gets his up and running. But overall, I think this movie is good. I think it's good for its era. And again, like the Blair Witch Project, which I have not talked about on this channel, but I talked about it on TikTok. Don't like that movie. Like the Blair Witch Project, I mostly appreciate it for what it opened the door for when it comes to slashers. So thank you, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Thank you, Tobe Hooper, for giving us the modern day slasher, because we can credit that to him. But overall, I did like this movie. I really like reviewing older movies. I think I'm going to make that a big part of this channel. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you did like this review, and go check out my first ever video on YouTube. My last video talking about my top 10 movies of 2026 so far. My next video will be my bottom 10 movies of 2026 so far. So go check out that video and subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss my next video. And we will see you guys next time.